My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours. We're a music podcast that chats to artists, musicians and creatives on their songwriting craft and upcoming projects. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and welcome to episode 293. Today on the podcast, we're chatting to Melbourne songwriter Juice Webster. She recently released her stunning debut record, Julia, which is a look at themes of loss, anxiety and grief. And honestly, it is one of my favourite releases of the year. It is a stunning record. Before we get to our chat with Juice Webster, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever app that you use, and ensure that you're following us across all of our socials. Details for all can be found within the show notes of today's episode. Our guest today is Juice Webster. She's a singer and songwriter from Melbourne, Australia, who writes indie rock and folk songs that balance both introspection and darkness so beautifully. In the press, her work has previously been compared to artists like Snail, Cat Power and Phoebe Bridgers, and she's received support from publications like Triple J and Rolling Stone for her previous EPs, You Who Was Myself and More Than Reaction. Earlier this month, she released her stunning debut record, Julia. It's a record that combines her folk and indie sonics with songs about compassion, grief, and change. It is gorgeous, and it's one I personally think you'll see on a lot of people's best of year-end lists. In today's episode, we talk to Juice Webster about this beautiful record and the songwriting behind it. We discuss her work with indie electronic duo Hemm and how it differs from her solo project. And we also talk to her about her live show and potentially taking it around the country. Julia is out right now, and we've left links to her Bandcamp within the show notes so that you can buy the record. We also want to say a massive thank you to Liz from Super Duper for her help with today's episode. Here is our conversation with Juice Webster. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Juice Webster. Juice, hello. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really, really happy to be here.
I am very, very happy that you're here as well. I know that it's been a big year for you. There's been some singles coming out, and at the moment there is a brand new full-length debut record out at the moment. It's called Julia. It is a gorgeous record. Firstly, congratulations on this record.
Thank you so much. It feels really nice to finally have it out.
Of course. How are you feeling with these? I imagine that, and I could be very wrong, please correct me if I am, that some of these songs have been sitting with you for a while. How are you feeling now that they're kind of going out into the public ether, if you will?
Definitely. Yeah, some of them were written, years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think, during lockdown and things like that. It feels so nice. I think there's always like a funny feeling. You hold on to songs for so long before anyone hears them, and, you hear them in all sorts of different iterations, and it kind of feels like you're holding on to a bit of a secret. And then it can be a funny emotional experience, I think, releasing music, because it's like, you're letting go of this thing that you care so deeply about, and it can be a bit daunting to see how people react, but it's been really nice as well. It's really nice to share what I've been working on and where my head's been at for the past little bit as well.
I love that. It is a look, I understand how it might come across when an interviewer is over, not cloying, but can be too appreciative of the guest. I have to say, when your very kind publicist, Liz, sent through this record. I did fall in love with this record. I think that anyone who listens to this podcast know that we do love a good singer-songwriter style record. And I think this is going to, once the vinyl does come out, it will be joining the ranks of what's behind me. So, this record is incredible.
Thank you. That's so low. I was just like looking at what's behind you. That's such an honor. Thank you. That's really, really sweet. I'm glad.
No, I was just curious, I guess, to begin with, the debut record. You have been recording, I think, under your name since 2019. We've had 1 or 2 EPs. Did you know that this was going to be the debut record, if you will, when you started writing these songs? Or was it just that as you kind of came along, you were like, this is enough for a full length?
I definitely didn't set out to, I guess, write a record in that way. I knew that I wanted to put out a full-length record. That was a real goal of mine. But I didn't, I guess in the traditional sense, I didn't sort of sit down and say, I'm going to write, 10 songs for this, this piece of, this body of work. I think just the way that I write in general as well, like I write fairly consistently, but I'm definitely not someone who, has like the set amount of time a day or a week of disciplined kind of writing time. I'm someone, I kind of always have a guitar lying around and I'll do bits here and there. And sometimes if I'm feeling particularly creative or inspired, it feels like things come a bit easier, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth. So I think in that way, it definitely kind of came together, bit by bit. And I had kind of, other songs that I've written that I don't think I'll ever put out that, were written kind of during that process that just didn't feel quite right or weren't up to scratch. But I do feel like with these kind of 10 songs, there definitely was a feeling that they sort of belonged together and made sense to be on the one record for sure.
100%. I wanted to kind of discuss, I think, some of the songwriting on the record. I know that a lot of it does seem to be from your own perspective, and there was one song that I kind of kept coming back to, and if it's all right to talk about, I would love to hear, I guess, the inspiration or the what inspired the song. It was Waking Dream, which is about, I think, 3 or 4, maybe the 5th track on the record in the first half, but I found myself kind of rewinding back to that song. Are you able to share with us the creation of that track and where it kind of came from?
Totally. That one's like, it's a funny one because I still feel a little bit confused by it almost. Just more in, I think I'm definitely singing to different people and I'm singing from different perspectives kind of throughout that song. And I really liked the idea when I was writing that of just changing perspectives and not feeling like I needed to necessarily justify that or give an explanation to myself really of kind of why I was doing that. I think a lot of the record is kind of about, in a very, very broad existential sense, it's sort of, about, the passing of time and the changes that, inevitably come with that, and the way that I sometimes feel quite overwhelmed by that. I'm just someone who I find it, I think, quite difficult to just stay in the present, and I feel a lot of grief about over like the passing of time and things like that. So in the past, few years of my life, a couple of my siblings have had babies, and and that's such a beautiful, amazing thing to experience. But it definitely is a real, what's the word? It's just a very big kind of, I guess, reminder of the passing of time, and it kind of just really hits you in the face, and just that how your relationships change, your relationships within your family change over time, and as new things come and as we develop and people go through different stages of their lives. So I think Waking Dream is kind of a bit about that in one sense, and it's also sort of a little bit about thinking back to you know, my mum, like her experiences before I came along, and you know, maybe how I would have responded to her had I been her friend or something like that. It's a very convoluted explanation, but yeah, it's kind of about you know, a few different things, that one, that I'm obviously still trying to make sense of myself.
Well, firstly, thank you for sharing that with us. But like, I also do love that. It is, I feel like it is, I've been trying to think of the word since you said it, almost like a bookmark to a certain time frame or something, if you will, in terms of just taking stock and then going, oh, that's cool, that's where we're at. We're not, I think it's always easy to get stuck in some of your favorite time periods, and then you write from that perspective, and then you do have those moments where you're like, oh no, I'm not 20 whatever anymore. So no, thank you for sharing that.
No, that's okay. I think it's also just like, you know, that feeling of just like, whoa, like time can just pass so quickly and it can be so disorientating. And I think that concept of it being kind of like a waking dream, like just feeling like, you know, it's all happening, but sometimes it is just so hard to process the enormity of some of those things. Yeah.
It is, a brilliant track. Anyone who's listening to this podcast, please, along with the rest of the album, but also Waking Dream, please give it a good listen. I'm very curious as well, because I know that I think your start within the music industry was with Hemm, which was more of an electronic project, I think an electronic duo. How do you get from the sonics of Hemm to, I know you've previously been compared to artists like, I think there was Snail, there was Phoebe Bridgers. Listening to this record, there were little elements of Big Thief. How do you, well, I guess, what was the process like of going from the music of Hemm to your solo music? And was it always something that you'd always been interested in those kind of sonics and that kind of realm?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I kind of, in my like private life, you know, the folk music kind of came first and was always there. I met Bobby, who's the other half of Hemm. We met at uni and we were both studying music, actually.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams. All at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
And I was really interested, or I felt like I loved writing folk songs, and I felt really confident in that I could kind of write those songs and come up with those songs on my own. And, you know, I really enjoyed that process. It was a very, you know, personal kind of cathartic thing for me. And then I wanted to delve a bit more into the world of kind of electronic production, or at least like get my head around it and learn more about it, because I really didn't know anything about like software or any hardware or, you know, things like that. And I met Bobby and, you know, we became really good friends, and he's such a master with a lot of that kind of electronic production and just that way of making music. He's a really, really creative musician. And I just asked him if I could just come over and watch him work, like just sit behind him. This was years and years ago now. So I did that, and I just had like a sketch of something that I was like, we can, you know, if you want something to kind of work with, you can work with this. And we really liked what he made. And I think Hemm for us was definitely an opportunity. it felt, I think at the time, it felt quite experimental and a bit, genre, breaking, or I don't know what the term is, but, we really felt like it kind of created a space for us both to make music that we wouldn't really make either on our own or with other people. So in that way, I think it was like a really fun, just creative space for us at a time when, we were still very much finding our voice as individual musicians, but also as our own band and yeah.
100%. Do you think that we won't harp on this for too long, do you think that there's ever a return to Hemm, a revisiting, or is that where it sits for now?
We've got a bunch of demos that I think are really, really cool. We really got the wind knocked out of our sails by COVID. Like we kind of lost a lot of momentum, and Bobby had gone away, and it was just hard. It was obviously hard for anyone to get together around that, during that time. So I sort of very much retreated into my solo stuff because it was, again, something I could just do on my own for the most part, apart from recording it all. But yeah, we've got a bunch of demos that I think are really cool. I think we're both keen to release them. It's just a matter of we just need to, get back into it, and one of us needs to just light a fire under the other one a little bit and get it done.
Well, look, if and whenever we do see those tracks, very excited for when that does happen.
Thank you.
I would love to know, I guess, going back to what you were saying before, in high school and in uni, when you were kind of always doing that, the more folk singer-songwriter-y writing, what was your introduction to songwriting? When did you kind of start to trial lyric writing and writing songs? And I guess, how did you find the fact that you enjoyed it and I guess had a talent for it?
I think I was really lucky in that the way, both my parents and my siblings as well played a lot of music growing up. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, so I kind of had not only my parents playing music that I still am obsessed with now, but, I feel like my parents introduced me to a lot of, the classics, kind of like Jeff Buckley and Fiona Apple and Nick Cave, and but then also like Dusty Springfield and Etta James and Wilco and, that kind of realm, I guess.
You had very cool parents by the sound of it, yeah.
Like, funny, 'cause in hindsight, you kind of realise, like, damn, like, they're really sick artists. You obviously don't have that perspective when you're young. But then I also had, my brother putting on like Radiohead and Beach House and stuff like that when I was like, just a little bit older. So I feel like I was really fortunate in that I grew up with amazing music around me, but also my parents were very they really like paid attention to the music as well. Like my mum would point out a lyric that she'd be like, oh, don't you just love that lyric, or listen to this thing on, and my dad is such a music head, like it's his biggest passion in the world. So again, kind of I feel like having that my attention drawn to specific details in music has definitely had a really big impact on me, and a big impact on my appreciation for it, I think, as a craft and a form of expression. So yeah, and then I kind of learned instruments from a young age. So I started violin when I was like, 8 or something, and then I played the saxophone for a bit, and then started the guitar a bit later, and I loved that because I wanted something that I could accompany myself with. And from then so I probably started writing songs when I was like 14, 15. They were terrible. I actually feel like I didn't get to a point where I didn't feel like I was writing anything like half decent until, the first EP I put out. And even then I think back now and I'm a bit like, oh, I'm like, of course I'm like proud of it and it's a moment in time and stuff, but I'm definitely not someone who was like writing ever since, they were really little and that kind of thing. It was, I'd say, from when I was like 15 is when I started toying with it. And then the older I've gotten, I've just kind of fallen more in love with it as time has gone on, as I've felt more comfortable in my own, I guess, kind of style or creative voice, and using it as a form of expression and just kind of settling into it a bit more.
I love that. With the household being obviously very in touch and in love with music, what do your parents make of your music now? I'm hoping that they gave Julia a 5-star rating.
I think, Mum definitely would give it a 5-star rating. Mm-hmm. I hope, maybe not, maybe to my face, but and then Dad. I think Dad's funny with my music. He's so supportive, and it's so lovely. But he'll give me like a full, I'll send him a song and I get a text back that's like this long, full of his thoughts, and he's very involved, which is very sweet. He really cares. But yeah, I'm not sure. He loves the record for sure, but I reckon he'd be a tough critic. I think it'd be hard to get a 5 from my dad.
At least there's no favoritism, I guess. There's the silver lining there. Yeah. Are they musically inclined at all, or is it just coming from a love of the art of music?
I think it comes more from a love. Dad does play the guitar, but he wouldn't call himself a guitarist. He kind of he started lessons a bit later in life, I think, after following just on from his love of it. And Mum doesn't play any music, so it's more of a passion thing. One of my older brothers is really quite musical. He hasn't pursued it, but he played a lot of instruments throughout high school, and he was definitely, a really big support of me with my music. All of my family are, but yeah, I have funny memories of Mum would make me practice my instruments in the kitchen. Well, not make me, but she would encourage me to practice them in the kitchen as she was cooking dinner or something, so that, hold me accountable. My brother would come in and give me feedback and notes as well. So it's pretty funny.
It's all coming from a very supportive place, so I love that. And I do look forward to if I'm going to call him Mr. Webster because I'm not aware of his name, but he might make an appearance on the second record as a guitarist or something. So,
see, that's a great idea. Yeah, he'd love it.
Next record, please come back. We'll get him on with you, and we'll have a chat. I'm very excited to I guess know. I think this year you've supported the likes of Elliot. I think there were some shows with Jade Imagine. In terms of this project and taking it into the live space, how are you with playing live? Do you enjoy the aspect of taking these songs into like to an audience?
Yeah, definitely. I think particularly with this new record, I think the live show feels like a really big part of it. A lot of these songs, like, the vibe or the kind of ultimate, the way they've ended up was in large part, I think, in response to playing them live before I recorded them with my band, because really fortunate to have, like just an immensely talented band, and they're all, incredibly creative players, and I feel like just gave a lot to the recording, and yeah, so I think in that way, like the live space feels really important to the record, and feels like just a really big part of how it came about and where it's ended up.
Your live band recorded with you for the album, didn't they?
Yeah, so we live tracked pretty much all of it, except some of the quieter, more stripped back songs. But I think we live tracked 7 of the songs, which was really fun. So we all played them together, and I feel like it just made a lot of sense for that record. But it also, I'm so happy with how it sounds. I think you can really hear that. I think you can hear like that real people, us feeding off each other and having fun with it. And there's, I think, to me at least, there's like a playful nature in some of the the tracks that I think we probably couldn't have achieved if we hadn't recorded it in the way that we did.
100%. I think that there's sometimes with songs when they can be tracked separately or not live tracked, as you said, that they don't have a similar chemistry to them. They're the same notes being played over the other kind of parts, but it just doesn't have that almost interaction, like you said.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's easy to feel like, or easy to think that only the vocal, can, like, only the performance can, like, only affect the vocal or whatever. But it really, I think, I just think that the band, like, that played on it, like, they're just such expressive players, and I just think you can hear that, and it really, really shines through in a way that I am just so, like, blown away by all of their playing on the record. I just think that, they're amazing.
I know that there's a lot of people excited to see this record come out and to see it live. I have to ask, can we expect to see some shows in support of the record and possibly around the country as well? Yes,
there's a Melbourne one. They'll be on the 22nd of September at the Evelyn. And then I don't have a set date at this point in time for Sydney, but looking at November in Sydney, because I'm going overseas in between then, I'm actually going to play a solo show in Paris.
Awesome.
And hoping to also play a solo show in London, but that's not locked in yet either. So a few things in the works at the moment. As for the rest of the country, I would love to play everywhere. It's just a matter of, getting them booked.
Of course, I can very much appreciate that. We're based in Adelaide, and so sometimes it is difficult for artists to get booked or find their way down here. But when that does happen, very excited to see you here. And when this episode does come out, we'll make sure that we have all the dates, whether they be Melbourne, Sydney, London or Paris, that they're in the show notes. People can find them. Of course, Juice, we would usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to. Is there anything at the moment that's on high rotation for yourself?
Ooh, definitely. I've been rinsing the new Big Thief single.
Great.
Vampire Empire. It's so good. I loved that live video that came out. It came out a little while ago, and then and I also when I saw them play live in Melbourne at the end of last year, and I think they played that song live at their show. Now I'm like, maybe they didn't. Maybe I've just anyway. That show was incredible. So they're a big favourite of mine. Can't get enough of them. And what else have I been listening to a lot of? I mean, I've recently come back to, it's a big favourite of mine is Carrie and Lol by Sufjan Stevens. I just I go through phases where I, just listen to that nonstop, and I'm in a bit of one of those phases right now. So, yeah. What else? That it's another old record. What's it called? Goon by Tobias Jesso Jr. I've been listening to a lot of again.
Okay, yeah.
Old record, someone put a song on the other day, and I heard it, and I was like, oh, I just haven't listened to that in ages. So I've been listening to that quite a lot again as well. Yeah, that's probably.
Oh, very solid choices. Absolutely love all of those. Juice, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast. I do appreciate it. Congratulations on Julia. It is the brand new record from yourself. It's out now. There'll be links in the show notes where people can buy the record and see your shows. But once again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ready to elevate your everything shower? Meet Osea's new Undaria Algae Body Wash. This pH-balanced plant-based formula gently cleanses without stripping your skin. Featuring the all-natural citrusy fragrance of their best-selling body oil, Undaria Algae Body Wash transports you to a tropical paradise, indulging your skin and senses. It's the scent of summer year-round. Elevate your shower ritual with Osea. Get 10% off your first order with code SEAWEED at OSEAMalibu.com.